Okay, so we're going to do a detailing specific video here. I got a few other videos in the pipeline already. I just swapped out, debadged the car obviously, and debadged the back, took some content on that. I just need to cobble and edit it together. I'm doing this, most of these videos one take on my phone so I can upload them faster, but those are going to be an edit because I need to splice those in with each other. But car's debadged, Bear's debadged. I actually shuffled the emblem around and rebadged it, which is interesting. And swapped LED lights and everything, so be some content coming on that. It's not as bad as I thought for any of those things, so it's not nearly as bad as dealing with a bumper. So doing a video today on detailing though, because there's some people out talking online about how do you deal with brake dust on a car, or in general, like how do you detail these things, basically brake dust specifically. That kind of happens with Veloster ends. I see on the forums a lot of people popping in thinking or just asking, how do you deal with that kind of thing? Because this is probably the first car where they have that as an actual issue, where they have high performance brakes and you're going to have to naturally deal with brake dust as a problem. This is probably the first car for a lot of people where they have to think about that. So I'll do a video kind of on how I deal with that. The car's past break-in for me. This is at 700. It's past 700 miles by now. I just watched it yesterday actually, and it looks awesome. So paint looks fantastic. There's a little bit of spotting here and there because it rained, but the wheels look great as well. So this is after 700 miles after washing it. So I just washed it yesterday. So I figured I seem to be having good results. Let's do a video on how I'm achieving that basically. So I tried to video it yesterday when I was washing the car. That was a total fail because just doing anything for the first time, you're going to kind of struggle bus a little bit, trying to figure out like what works, what doesn't. I had issues like trying to figure out which water outlet in the house can feed the pressure washer. The front hose tap doesn't have enough flow rate, the rear one does. Just getting used to everything, getting used to running the foam gun, getting used to running the hand foam gun, the whole process. So running out of towels. So I'll lock that in next time and it should be pretty smooth, and we'll do a full sort of content video on that. I figure I could talk a little bit about products right now, just so you're not completely inundated on those videos and asking why I do certain things. So I'm gonna show you kind of what I run. Full disclaimer, I'm not sponsored by CarPro or anything else out there. You're gonna see a lot of their stuff on the table because I threw a questionable amount of money at this basically, at trying to just self-detail, and it all works pretty darn well. It's really highly reviewed, but I'm not sponsored by them in doing this, just as an FYI. So I'm running kind of a combination of CarPro and Griot stuff actually, now that I think about it. But yeah, so without further ado, kind of this is what I'm running to that basically self-detail the car. So it's a lot of stuff. I'm not going to break down every single fluid or like product over here. I'm just going to kind of walk you through what's the process for like dealing with the car, and specifically trying to get to dealing with brake dust basically. I'll try to talk a little bit specifically on that and kind of just walk you through like what's the mentality for detailing a car, why do you do certain things. I poured over a ton of videos from like Ammoland, NYC, a couple other people who I think are C-Quart's finest detailers, not detailers, applicators, tell you that they know what they're doing, trying to figure out what they do and why, and it all actually follows a pretty consistent pattern, maybe explained different ways. So this is a kind of a noob's perspective on that. So basically, to deal with brake dust, what you want to do really is, number one, wash the car first before you go and do anything wheel specific. Just so if any product you're applying to the wheels isn't sitting there eating away at normal road grime, you want to get it as direct to the brake dust as you can, basically. So, but basically just do a wash of the vehicle, however you're going to do that, and then go into wheel specific stuff. And then if that's where you want to stop, dry down the car, and you're pretty much good at that point. The rest of this is if you're going to be a stickler for paint and you want to knock down everything you possibly can, like a detailer would be doing basically. So I'll also be talking about that. So the way I do a general wash of the car is I'm going to foam gun the car first basically, and that's going to be my wash. If you want to run through an auto car wash, a touchless, that works too. However you want to do it. An auto car wash on a black car will dull it over time naturally because that's what they do. So I want to try to keep this looking nice. So I'm going to kind of adhere to this method. So the way that I'm doing that is I'm using a foam gun, and I'm using Griot's foaming surface wash for my soap of choice. So the reason why foam guns are used really is because you can just spray soap onto the car at first. So actually, let me back up a little bit. In general, when you're trying to do car cleaning, you want to do the least contact method at first, and then just ramp up how much you're actually touching the car. And the reason why you want to do that is because if you go straight to like a clay at first, you're just going to be moving around all the abrasives that are on the car right now, all the contaminants, and it's just going to scratch the car more, basically. So you want to procedurally work your way up on how much you're actually touching the vehicle up until the point where you got something stubborn on there, it's not going to come off, you have to use a clay. So foam gun is definitely one of the least invasive methods, and that's kind of why that's preferred. Foam is preferred over regular soap. Regular soap could possibly work if you sprayed it on there. The problem with that is it's just going to run right off the car, where the foam will kind of cling to the car and stay on there a little bit, interact with the stuff on there a little bit better. That's kind of why foam guns are really preferred, because they'll really attach to it. And as they fall off, they'll have some mass and they'll drag down any sort of contaminants, while also kind of lubricating them at the same time. Instead of just scratching your paint, they're just going to kind of encapsulate it and just pull it down with them. That's why foam guns are kind of preferred by a lot of people. It looks really cool, but there's a reason why they're preferred. So this is a Griot's Boss foam cannon. This is $200. This is kind of expensive, but there are a lot of foam cannons out there that are a little bit cheaper. Griot's actually makes one that's cheaper than this. The only difference with that is it actually foams better, but it's just made out of aluminum, at least when I asked him about it. So pick a foam cannon. If you're going to do full Monty, full send like this, this is definitely a nice way to do it for sure, as far as scratches go. So use this. I use foaming surface wash. This actually will plug straight into a secondary screw cap on the inside, which is nice. Or you can use this regular one to kind of put whatever fluid you want, like I've kind of done over here. But attach this over here, and this is kind of just a generic pistol grip for the pressure washer. Just got off Amazon. This is like 20 bucks basically. This is a little bit nicer than like the long wand you get with most pressure washers. So load those two up and just foam the car basically. I'm using this guy over here, which is this is just a Greenworks electric pressure washer. The thing you want to be concerned about is flow rate on your pressure washer, because a lot of these electric pressure washers will only make, a lot of the cheap ones, not the cheap ones, the common ones that even at like Home Depot or Lowe's will really only make 1.3 GPM if you read closely. This will top out at 2.1. So that flow rate is really important, because this really only starts activating at about 1.8 if you look at the documentation. So figure out what foam gun you're running and make sure your pressure washer can feed it. I actually realized the front hose tap of the house cannot feed this. It doesn't have enough flow. The rear hose actually can. So I was running a massive line to actually get to that. So I was just running this and nothing was fluid, like stuff was coming out, but it wasn't actually, the Venturi wasn't activating. I was just getting water, or just like mildly soapy water. So connect that to the back and this actually starts snow foaming, which is awesome. So anyhow, load those two, foam the entire car, let that sit for like 30 seconds, a minute. Disconnect this and attach the 40-degree fan to that pistol grip and then rinse down the car. You want to use that 40-degree fan, nothing really more intense than that, because if you want like a 15-degree fan, that's going to be really high pressure, really concentrated, and that will run the risk of stripping off paint. A 40-degree fan will disperse that load a lot farther, and if you run the wand pretty far away from the car, it's not really going to damage the paint. You're really just using this just to move the foam off of the car. You're not trying to really attack the car, you're just trying to move the stuff off basically quickly. So that really speeds that up. So depending on how I look at the car, if this isn't coated right now, I might hit it again and just foam it and then pop that off and rinse it off again with with just a fan attachment. And when it's coated, I might not need to do that. That's basically, that's my first wash. It's equivalent of if you went to like a touchless car wash. It's basically just what I've done. At that point, I'll kind of sit and evaluate what do I got on the car as far as dirt goes. So I'll take a look at the wheels. I'll run my finger along the wheel and check for brake dust. It's probably going to still be on there, especially since they're uncoated. So if that happens, then we're going to need to run a wheel-specific cleaning process, which makes sense. And I'm also going to take a look at the paint. So I took an inspection light. I just took a flashlight, actually. I took a look at the paint and kind of saw what we got. There was some minor spotting, even though it went through this process twice. So I knew at that point I need to do a contact wash, which I was expecting. So I'll do that. So let's talk about wheel specific first. So after that first wash, so wheel specific soap that I use, this is P&S Brake Buster. So P&S Brake Buster. This works really well. So it comes in the spray bottle. You can get bigger ones. So you don't need to foam this, but you can. So I elect to do that because, again, it'll stick to the wheels and it'll have more acting time. We'll pull that stuff off. So you can just run this directly as a spray if you want to, but if you want, you can dilute it 1:7, load it into a hand foamer like this IK Foam Pro 2, and that will foam onto the car basically. So I just use a hand foamer, and it seems a lot of people do. And I think the reason is because you don't need like the full power of like a whole foam cannon. You just need this just to coat onto the car. So that's kind of why that's preferred. So the way this works is you just pump this up until this pops up to indicate it's at pressure, and you just spray it onto one of the wheels. Wait 60 seconds, and then you want to agitate. So I use a wheel Woolie. So this is made by Liquid. These are made by Liquid X. You can also get one made by Chemical Guys off Amazon. There are a lot of these. So these are really nice because you can really take that stick and you can really get in between the crevasses over here in the wheel. This is pretty easy to get to, but you can actually stick it through here and clean the inside of the rim, which is nice. And also the smaller one can actually get in there and clean the caliper as well. So these two and Brake Buster is really all I use for the wheels. After that, after you're agitated, also what I'll do is I'll take a horsehair brush and I'll also run that across the wheel itself, just to try to give it a little bit of TLC. If you have a wheel shine, you could do that too. And after all that, then just take this attachment, pop off the foam cannon, put a 40-degree fan on, and just rinse it off. And that alone is what yields that. So after 700 miles. So really, if you just want to deal with the brake dust issue, wash the car however you want. I would just I would get P&S Brake Buster or something similar. Griot makes one as well. I've heard a lot of good things about this. That's why I have this. A foamer is preferred. You don't really have to, but just get this on there after you wash the car, agitate, and then rinse off. You might need to do that once or twice, depending on how bad the brake dust is if you're not using a foamer, but that should get the wheels pretty darn clean. So a normal soap won't do that. Again, after I hit the car twice with foaming surface wash, that did jack to the brake dust. This pulled it off in one shot. So after it was given like 60 seconds to react and talk to that stuff. So yeah. If you want to stop right there, if you kind of consider that good, you can just dry off the car or dry off the wheels, depending on whatever you're doing. Use your microfibers. I have a gigantic stack of them over here. The really fluffy ones are for drying. Or if you have like a leaf blower, something small. I have this. This is just like a 20-buck one I got off Amazon. This is literally the cheapest leaf blower I could find. And you could use that to get some of the water off the car. That actually helps really a lot with the... car just clicked a little bit. I just drove it. That helps a lot with the wheels because you really can't get a towel in between there. So definitely recommend that. And at that point, you can kind of just call it over there. If you want to go further, the way this rest of the stack works is so that pulled off a lot of stuff off of the main surface of the car and it cleaned off all the brake dust. There might still be some other stuff built up onto the car. So if you look at the car closely at the paint, I still had a little spotting everywhere throughout the car, even though this took majority of the fallout and industrial fallout off the car, there was still like little bits baked on there. So at that point, we moved to a contact wash. So now we actually get a sponge involved. Now we actually are going to go and sponge the car. So the soap that I use is CarPro Reset. Actually, let me back up a little bit. Prior to contact wash, one thing you can do that I did not do, and I probably should have done, I'm going to do it next time, is a chemical decontamination. So this is, forgetting what the actual phase here, one kind of decontamination. After kind of your initial, you can do a chemical before you get to your contact. So this is TarX, IronX, and Spotless. And what you want to do with a chemical decontamination is to try to work off anything that's hard on the vehicle that you're agitating it endlessly will take off, but not something you want to do. So that's where these kind of come in. These are a little aggressive. They're all inherently kind of not really acidic, but they're kind of intense. I think your water spot remover is kind of an acid. So Spotless is a water spot remover. This is an iron remover, and this is a tar remover. So if you have noticed anything on the car that is sticky, TarX works amazingly well for that. It's done things where like a quick detailer would not take off. Put TarX onto like this little piece of just whatever it was stuck onto the vehicle, left there for 30 seconds, 2 minutes, came back, wiped straight off. So TarX works really well for doing that stuff where you just be agitating endlessly. IronX is really good for after like 6 months, 12 months, depending on the area you're at, you might have kind of a built-up of a coating along the side of the vehicle. It's not necessarily going to be something you can see, but if you take like a Ziploc bag and you run your finger across it, you can probably feel where some iron has kind of bonded to that surface. So IronX will rip that off. That's not something you need to do every wash, maybe like every 6 months to 12 months. And I should have done it for this car because it's a new car and no one knows how much stuff that thing has seen during transport. So I probably should have done that. We'll do that next time. And Spotless is kind of something you would engage for, or any like water spot remover is something you would engage for any like intense water spotting onto a vehicle. The rain here isn't that bad, so I don't feel a need to use it most of the time, but that's available if you need it. So those are kind of your main ones. So again, like some sort of tar or adhesive remover. Oh, not really an adhesive, just tar remover. Adhesive remover won't do what that does. Tar remover, iron remover, and water spot remover. You don't have to use CarPro stuff. I've just bought into the stack basically at this point. So after that, after you do your chemical decontamination, and you just go through your contact wash. So this is actually sponging the car. So to get off any of those additional things, and wanted to kind of preface, I'm not covering the entire car with TarX or Spotless. Those are just kind of situational wherever you see it. IronX, you can maybe hit a little bit more depending on where you think stuff is built up, but you're not like hitting the entire car with these things. These also usually don't need dilution. You're just going to run them straight up. So after that, then we go and contact wash the car. I skipped that completely. I didn't think about really needing it this time. So you go to your contact wash. I'm using CarPro Reset as just my soap. You can use like Meguiar's, any other soap out there. They're all pretty similar. But Reset's rated pretty highly, so I'm using that. So this is diluted, I believe, 1 part per 500. So this will last a long time. Load that into like 1.35 ounces per 5-gallon bucket. So load that into your bucket basically. So I got 2 buckets over here. This is pretty standard 2-bucket method. So the way 2-bucket method works is you have 2 buckets, and one of them is where you're going to put your soap and water. The other one is just going to have water. So this is your soap bucket. That's your rinse bucket. So you're going to put your sponge in the soap bucket, wash the car, do your thing with it, bring it back. After the sponge has accumulated a bunch of crap on it, rinse in the rinse bucket and then put it into the soap bucket to get more soap. You just don't want to be using one bucket where it's building up all the stuff from the car and mixing that with your soap. You want to try to isolate them. This will get a little bit dirty, but not as bad as having a dedicated rinse bucket basically. So CarPro Reset, 2 buckets, some sort of car sponge. I got 2 in there, and you kind of just run over the entire car. You don't need to put your elbow into it. That's not really the point. You just want to run the car over it, run over the car rather, with the sponge, and the little microfibers on there should be agitating basically onto the surface. Whereas this didn't really do that much agitation. It just came on and pulled off. You're actually going to be agitating onto the entire vehicle with that. So after that, then just rinse off the car again. So again, that thing, 40-degree fan, blast the entire car off, and then kind of evaluate where you're at. So that's where I stopped, because I don't want to get as far as claying. This car is going to get ceramic coated anyways. So you don't want to clay a ceramic coated car. So one thing that was new to me, for someone that's completely new to this, was I didn't realize that claying usually implies you're going to polish right after, because claying itself could leave like micro marks, micro marring on that paint. Basically like not a swirl mark, but similar. And it's kind of implied if you're claying the car, whether it's with a regular clay, a synthetic clay, or one of those sponges, you should be polishing the car right after. So I don't want to invest that much time into here. I do have a dual action orbital, but I don't really want to use that every time. That's kind of why I'm getting the car ceramic coated. I have a DA for some other reasons. That's for Essence Plus. With if you're familiar with that product, I want to give that a go. But I do not intend on going so far as to wash clay and then polish the car. That's a lot of time. So I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna stop here. When the car is ceramic coated, it should be really all you need to do. And with a ceramic coated car, you don't want to clay them because you don't want to polish a ceramic coated car, because if you polish a ceramic coated car, you take the coating off, which defeats the purpose. So with a ceramic coating, it's really designed so you shouldn't have to clay it. If it develops swirl marks, that becomes an interesting problem actually, because you can get swirl marks on a ceramic coating. It will happen actually. And in the past, really, the only way to take a swirl mark off of a ceramic coated car is to recoat it, which is a lot of time and a lot of money. CarPro actually makes a product called Essence Plus, which is designed to be used specifically with, I believe it's specific with sea quartz, maybe some other coatings. Obviously, they tested on sea quartz, and that will actually build up onto a ceramic coating to try to deal with that. So that's kind of why I had to dual action orbital to try that out over time. But none of that's relevant now because this isn't coated yet. But anyhow, where are we at? Contact wash the car, and after this point, I'd probably be drying the car off. So using kind of I have some fluffy towels in there to kind of dry the car off. I thought I had a massive like Geon drying towel for the vehicle. Evidently, I did not actually order that, so that's coming in. That would have helped because I ran out of towels to dry the car with, which is very nerve-wracking because I just had my little mini detailing fluffy towels. I didn't have my big one that I thought I had on hand, which should be sufficient to dry the entire car. So Geon ones are really, really absorbent. So that'll be coming in, that'll help, but just dry the entire car off. If you see any parts of the vehicle that might need a little more help, you could hit it with a quick detailer, which is what this is. And you could do this honestly day to day if you want to obsess over it without having to break out the full bucket. So that's useful. So you hit it with a quick detailer and just wipe that off. If it's building up residue, I just use Eraser to kind of follow that up and to break that off if I need to. And the Eraser is honestly fantastic for that. I'm skipping a step over here because after reset, I took an optional step of actually running HydrO2 Foam, which is this thing over here. This is a soap on its own, but you kind of finish with that. What that will do is that will actually leave a little mini quartz coating on the entire vehicle, and will kind of help make it a little more hydrophobic until the next wash. So I like that because I have screwed up hydrophobic coatings in the past, and that gives me a little more peace of mind that I won't mess it up. So you really just spray this on, rinse it right off. And that has been helping. It beaded up a lot of water the other day when it was running around. So the process was contact wash, followed up with HydrO2 Foam as the last one, which runs through the foam cannon, and then dry the car off. If there's any more portions that need some love, then you would hit it with this. I didn't do that because I ran out of towels. So and that's pretty much the entire set. So I pretty much ran through everything over here. These two over here, this is Ech2O. This can be used as a waterless wash, rinseless wash rather. So I haven't needed to run that, but that's what I would be using if it was really sunny outside and I didn't want to leave like Reset or even like foaming surface wash sitting out there. In the case if it's really sunny outside, I'd hit it with foaming surface wash, blast off rinse that off basically, maybe do the wheels. I could maybe do the wheels on the inside the garage even, and then I would just sponge the car with a waterless wash afterwards, which is what this is for. So I would skip a lot of this and just do that. I would chemical decontaminate if I had another day to do it. You really do not want any of these to dry. That would be massively bad for the car and also really hard to take off. So I completely skip that on those days. There's a glass cleaner here as well. I think the glass needs a little more care. I didn't need to do that the other day though. So yeah, that's kind of the whole process. Just kind of summarizing. Wash the car, wheel specific stuff. Do your chemical decontamination if you need to. You don't need to do that every time. Maybe just once every 6 months or something like that. Contact wash the car if you need to, and then finish off with some sort of sealant if you have one. Like Griot makes like polygloss CarPro has HydrO2 Foam. Everyone has their own, basically. So that HydrO2 Foam was designed almost, and Reset as well, to interact with the C-Quartz Finest coating. At least they intend it to be used as such. That's kind of why I've thrown money at that. So hopefully that was interesting. There are a lot of like really good videos online. You can probably obsess over them like I have about how do you wash cars. And this whole process seems to work really well. It's quick once you get into the swing of it. Because it's really just load this on there, blast the car. It's a lot of fun. Take that off, rinse the car off, load that back on, foam the car again. Looks great. Rinse the car off, and then do some manual labor on the wheels and as well as the contact wash, foam the car again, and dry it off. That's pretty much it, to be completely honest. In and out, I think I could do it within like 30 or 40 minutes if I'm on my game and I don't mess anything up with doing everything. I also had to like dilute everything for the first time and look at what the dilution was. That's why it took like an hour and a half for me to actually do this, but I'm hoping that'll be faster next time. So hopefully this is interesting. If there's any detailer watching this and I mentioned something completely wrong, please correct me in the comments. Or if you have any questions yourself, I can answer to the best of my knowledge. But yeah, this is stuff that's just accrued from hours of YouTubing, looking around forums. What are people running to clean BMWs and other nice cars? Basically, it just seems to be pretty consistent that a lot of people are using stuff like this with these products. So yeah, that's kind of the gamut of that. As far as microfibers go, I just have a stack of them here. There's like a stack of probably 20 regular, just like detailing microfibers sitting in here. They're just available if I need them, and probably they'll be used more if I'm doing detailing between washes. There's literally like this entire stack of these sort of small detailing microfibers. There's like 6 of these more plush ones, and there'll be a big one coming as well for drying the entire car. And where are my glass ones? There's a stack of like 6 glass, like more tighter woven towels that you would use for glass. That just has a lesser risk of running streaks, basically. So you can look at how do you clean glass, and it'll tell you specifically, get a tightly woven microfiber towel or just a specific glass towel like that, and be diligent on like what you use them for. Glass streaks are obviously terrible to deal with. So there's that. But yeah, you can never really have too much microfibers. They're a bit pricey, but I mean, like running out of microfibers during a wash session is really scary. Because I had to start rationing which towels I'm using for what to try to just dry the car. So wouldn't recommend running into that issue if you can. So hopefully this was useful. I should get those videos on the emblems and the lights going the next few days. But yeah, thanks for watching.